We're excited to have this conversation, especially about building teams on the ops side of the house. But for everybody that's jumping in right now, this goes without saying, but if it's your first shOPS talk, we encourage and love having people participate. So anywhere along the way you see something that jumps out to you, drop it in the chat. We'll address it, and we'll make sure we hopefully can answer your question. If it's, again, not too crazy or not too hard, but we will do our best to make it happen. So that being said, we are excited to kick things off. Again, welcome to another episode of shOPS Talk, episode 6, which is kind of crazy to me thinking that we've already done 5 of these and now on to episode 6. But we're super excited about this one. First and foremost, as a preface to this, shOPS Talk we couldn't do this without some of our partners that helped us put it together. So big thank you to our friends over at Salesforce for continuing to sponsor a lot of the episodes and bringing some of the high quality content and coordination of these events. So we wouldn't be able to do this without Jen and Chris and everybody on the Salesforce team. So thank you for that. But again, the whole premise for this episode and for all of our shOPS Talks episodes are to talk with some of the industry experts that are best in the game and best in class and are really doing some of the most cutting edge stuff when it comes to operations. This one, more than anything, I'm extremely excited about for a multitude of reasons, but one of the questions we get asked all the time in our community and on the Sonar side is, how do we help build our operations teams? Fortunately today, we've got 2 folks on that are doing that exact thing as we speak, building out strategic operations teams. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce Kevin and Mallory. I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But Mallory, we'll let you start off with telling everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So nice to see you guys or meet you. Mallory Lee. I am based out of Indianapolis, and I head up revenue operations at Terminus Software. This is my first role in revenue operations. I kind of grew up as a marketing ops professional, have been doing this for about 10 or 11 years now. And I love it. I love the amount of stuff that I'm learning right now about sales and rev ops and CS and kind of jumping in. But I've had a lot of great opportunities to work with folks over at ExactTarget and Salesforce, and I've been a VP of marketing before. Sales and marketing alignment is so important to me, so I think I carry that in to the RevOps role, and look forward to talking to you guys.
Fantastic. One thing that Mallory loves to always tell everybody is that we've actually worked together before. Mallory and I were on the same RevOps team over at Terminus for a little while. So I'm personally excited to have her on the episode, and obviously it's fun always working with you again, Mallory. So excited to have you. Kevin, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Thanks. Yes, Kevin Wisniewski. I head up RevOps over at Onna, based out of New York. I've been in revenue operations for 4 or 5 years now at usually at high growth early stage companies. Before that, I was in sales, and I learned pretty early on that I was more interested in the science of sales than actually selling. So I think I eventually found my way over to the ops side and haven't really looked back.
Love it. It's always so interesting to me hearing how people start in this, because again, as a sort of recap for the folks that have joined some of the other shOPS Talks episodes, starting things off with Manas at CV Insights, coming from an education background, Ben Fuller and Benjamin Reynolds both coming from 2 totally different backgrounds, some in education, some in religion, and it always baffles me hearing so many different angles. Now obviously coming from a sales side, coming from a marketing background, we all come here and from different areas and different expertise, and I think that's one of the things that's so cool about the people that are in RevOps is that we all have different perspectives of different challenges we've either had in business or in exterior components. So again, to sort of reset for today, why we're so excited about this topic is because this huge trend we're seeing in how RevOps teams are growing. Again, you heard Mallory and Kevin both say that they're growing their teams as we speak. When we were kind of prepping for this, it was so cool hearing the 2 different sort of angles, sort of traditional versus non-traditional of how you go about doing this. Kevin, we'll start with you. I know it's a little bit of a non-traditional route of how your RevOps team is being built and centered around, but tell us a little bit more about where y'all started and where you're going now with it.
Yeah, so I've been a team of 1 for about a year at Onna before we were ready to expand. But yeah, to your point, we working with my VP of revenue very closely to sort of figure out like what's that first hire, what is that next step. So we really wanted to look at the business and like the direction it was going, and really looking at the size of our sales team and the headcount plans we had for the oncoming years. And we decided that, we really wanted to invest early in enablement versus the traditional sales ops. We really wanted to arm our team, not just with the tools, but the right resources to, help them ramp as quickly and efficiently as possible so they could really start contributing to the business. So yeah, we decided that enablement was the route to go. So I hired my first sales enablement lead about 6 months ago. And then a week ago, I had a sales onboarding specialist start to really own that piece of the puzzle. So yeah, I'm glad that we did that. It really was a huge lift to kind of get that enablement piece off the ground. And now I'm starting to hire for that more generalist sales ops position as well.
I love that. Kind of a little bit ad-libbing here, but one of our big community members, Jonathan Morgan, actually just had a really good post about generalists versus specialists, and how do we prioritize like who we're trying to hire. We can all be a jack of all trades or all be a master of none. What's the best way to do it? So it's interesting as we kind of mobilize around the person that has these different skill sets. I don't think anybody's going to be the expert in the room on absolutely everything. So you have to start dividing and conquering. I love the enablement side of that, because out of anything, why are we here? What are we doing for our companies? Well, we're enabling our go-to-market teams. Now, that can either be through technology, through process, through strategy, but just the fact that y'all chose the enablement side, I absolutely love it. It's unique. Again, there's this whole ocean to boil here of how do we go solve all these problems for our companies. Enablement's being a big one of them, and we're seeing a trend in that. So absolutely love that. Mallory, I know you and I have a familiar background with everything on the RevOps plate for you, but at the same time, it's been a while since I've been inside the four walls of Terminus ever since starting Sonar. Curious to hear how your evolution from coming in and then also building a team from start.
Yeah, so when I joined Terminus about a year ago and Brad was still there, we already had RevOps for rolling up to the CFO. So that's something that's a little bit unique about Terminus that I personally love, that we're just right in that CFO general ops org, and it helps us kind of work really broadly across all departments. And we also had RevOps and sales enablement under one team for quite a while. We recently did split those apart. That's when I took over the RevOps arm, and then I've got a close partner, Lindsay, who does our sales enablement group. So we've now kind of split those so that they can be their own real kind of focused areas. But Lindsay also reports to our CFO, so we still partner very closely. So that's like one of the changes that happened, after Brad started Sonar. But the way that I have started to structure the team and build it out is really kind of based on three legs that, three-legged stool analogy that everybody loves. But I think about it as like data and analysis and BI on one side. And then all the way on the other side, you have all the technology that we use to run the business. In the middle of that, we have our RevOps proper team. And that's where we've got our RevOps managers that are kind of acting as a practice leader. They're aligned to a department, and they're that liaison that's working directly with our customer, which is, sales or marketing or CS or product. And then they're making sure that the technology we're using runs through strategy and process and people to give us the data that we need. And once we've got that data, we can analyze it, figure out how to get more efficient, plow those learnings back into the business, and kind of rinse and repeat. So those are the three teams that roll up to me right now. Pretty soon we're going to be adding a deal desk, so that'll be part of that sort of middle layer, but it's been really exciting.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm assuming that a lot of the folks that we have on and listening right now, they're in the back of their mind, or maybe audibly, they're saying, I do all of those and I'm still an army of one. How is it that you get to bringing these specialists and bringing these dedicated people? And I think we're going to get into that. And then I think that's part of our next little section is how do we go and fight for this budget and how to rationalize it. But I think before we even do that, understanding the three-legged stool analogy is perfect. One of my go-to analogies is always the pie chart. And we're all, one big circle. How do we start to divide our wedges? Is it in strategy? Is it in data? Is it in systems? So many folks, looking at the attendee list, I know personally, whether it be just through our community or as customers or friends, and we all have this struggle. And I think in operations, we're all always going to feel the pain of the struggle first before we go and solve for it. Keep me honest, that could be something that maybe y'all have already solved for, but I think we all have to get to that, like, wow, I've got too many things to do. Things are either slipping through the cracks or we're not dedicating enough time to be great at one of these roles or one of these legs of the stool. Therefore, let's go fight for budget. Moving into sort of our next topic of that, because it's tough, right? Like we're all in this operations world together. Spoiler alert, I don't know about y'all in the RevOps world that y'all are playing in. I never carried a quota. I don't think either of y'all do either, from what I know. And it's so hard sometimes to go and justify budget for something when you're a non-revenue generating entity, right? It's easy on the sales side sometimes, the marketing side, like, guys, look what we did last quarter. We did X much pipeline, or we closed all these deals. We need more people. Dollar in, dollar out. It's tougher on the RevOps side, right? Mallory, we'll start with you. I know you mentioned your CFO and how he's got a particular mindset to it. Curious how those conversations look internally when you're justifying that new headcount.
Yeah. So I will say up front that I'm blessed with a CFO that used to lead RevOps. And so he gets it. He's been in my seat before. He's a really strong advocate. So that is step one, something that makes my life easier. But, I think my job as, leading the team is to get creative in the way that we make those justifications. And I want everyone on my team to understand that, like, every order form that they go work on is money in the door. And so we might not have a quota, but we're certainly revenue generating. And, to your point, Brad, I think you have to feel the pain first, prove the pain, prove the business case, and then make the hire. And that's kind of exactly where we are with Deal Desk. Right now, everybody in that sort of like RevOps proper, there's 4 of us, and we're all splitting the responsibilities for Deal Desk. And I can estimate roughly how much time we're all spending on it. I know we're up to a person worth of time. And so, we're making that case to get started next year. I think that, looking at hours and looking at speed and just getting deals out the door, if we can improve that velocity, that's sales velocity right there. So that efficiency is super important. Another good example is kind of that marketing ops world is kind of my night job right now. And obviously I have passion for it, so I don't mind doing it, but at some point it'll become unsustainable and I'll have to fight for an additional RevOps manager to work with marketing. But I love trying to make those cases. And when we brought in our BI analyst, he had a skill set of, building these like little integrations with middleware, and we're building some cool stuff that will allow our customers to see their media balances and the way that they're spending money with Terminus. And we don't have that today. So today we've got like an accounts payable inbox where people are sending requests and asking questions, and it's hours of people's time. I can prove that like David's solution is going to save all of that time. So I think it's very easy to make the business case. You just have to think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely love that. I was, Kevin, I'm going to bounce past the same question over to you of how do you go fight that. But when you were talking about this time efficiency aspect of it, I was on with one of our customers earlier this week, and we were having this dialogue about it. And we don't have to justify Sonar to them; they're a customer of ours. That's great. But walk me through, in the same vein, how do you rationalize hiring new folks, bringing on new technology, expanding your team with this ROI principle of like dollar in, dollar out? And the first thing he said is like, well, there's the problem with your equation. Don't think about dollar in, dollar out. Think about dollar in, minute out. He's like, if I put $1 into this, look, our most valuable asset is our time. It's not, we don't carry quotas, so we're not bringing revenue officially back into the business by carrying that. It's like, but we only have a certain amount of hours that we can work every day. Now you're talking about, oh, we've all kind of done the analysis. Everybody on our team is using too much time doing this one task. How do we start to push that time into a whole nother person to give them time back in their other roles? And I thought it was just so like profound. It's like, God, dollar in, dollar out. We hear this all the time in these ROI arguments. What about dollar in, minute out? or $1 in, 5 minutes out? Like, can we start to rationalize way more around that? So again, it falls right in line with your point, Mallory. But Kevin, I know you're doing the same, right? We've been chatting for the last couple of months, watching your team grow and continue to grow. Curious how you carry those conversations on with your leadership to, again, justify it.
Yeah, that's same boat as Mallory, where I think I'm in a very fortunate position where I don't have to fight as much as it's like justify. I think my leadership team really sees the value and always has seen the value in RevOps as like a core function of the business and the go-to-market team. But no, I think that kind of to your point about like dollar in, a minute out, like my last company, for example, I always had to make a business case for why I needed to buy something or hire somebody. And the way I always had to like structure it was, the only term I remember from economics class in college is opportunity cost. So like, what is the cost of me not doing this, right? Like, and I had to like spell it out on paper, and it's a light bulb, right? It's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. If we don't buy this technology, we're just being that much more inefficient, and you're leaving all these dollars on the table. So I think there's a few ways to kind of go about it, but I think, yeah, kind of to your point, it's being able to tell that ROI story and making it tangible, and then building the business case, depending on how your leadership kind of views it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to kind of tee up the next question so we can start thinking about it, because as we go into this, and for everybody that's joined us before, these are all very, very casual conversations. We start with a list of things, and we sometimes stay on it, sometimes we deviate. The question I'll ask, and then I'll give a little bit of preface to it, is obviously you are both growing your teams. When we look, especially everybody that's on this as an attendee, they are either hoping to grow their team or they're in the middle of growing their team as well. I think looking at the talent side of things and how you evaluate talent is so important. So I guess this question that I'll kind of put in your ear to start thinking, and Kevin, we'll start with you and we'll finish up Mallory this way. I'll go around the other way. When you're evaluating folks for RevOps, and again, it's not, every role is different. Deal desk is one that you're looking for, Salesforce admin or an analyst, but I think there's some underlying features for everybody that's in operations that we should all grasp onto. So I'll put it there as far as like when you think about what you're looking to hire for, what are some of the biggest attributes, some being tangible, some being intangible. But again, I think just to sum up what you were talking about on the hiring side of it, so often we have to go and talk to these executives about, I need this, I'm drowning, I'm swamped. And that was one of my first approaches when I was running operations at Gather, when I was running operations at Terminus, like how do I go and fight for these? One thing I found out, and especially in this role that I'm in now, storytelling is key. How do you paint the right picture as to what this problem is? How do you fluently and coherently solve for it? And I've seen, when I've talked with other RevOps leaders, one of the biggest things that you can do is have your story like just so ironclad, so that you walk into your VP of finance or your CFO's office or your CEO's office and say, I want to let you know I've spent a lot of time on this. Do you have 20 minutes? I would love to tell you about this pain that I've solved or I've got right now, why it's important to the business. And here's my 2 ways that I plan on solving for it. We can either work with a new full-time employee, or we can maybe grab somebody else out of another department to do this. Because I think what I'm feeling now, or what I'm seeing work so well, is like be solution-oriented. And we all are. We're in revenue operations. We're, of course, solution-oriented. Why don't we take that same approach and we take that to our boss or take that to our leader? Like, here's my problem. Here's my 3 ways I'm solving for it. Because you can be way more influential than just going in and saying, I'm drowning, I need another head. I can't, I don't have enough time to sleep right now. I just need somebody else on my team. You gotta be solution oriented. So again, Kevin, we'll start with you now. Thinking about that person and that persona and that role, what are some of the attributes you look for when you're trying to hire for your team?
Yeah, so regardless of the function that I'm hiring for, anywhere they sit on the RevOps team, the one thing I always look for is empathy. And I say that, because you're supporting salespeople most of the time, or marketing, or success, or whomever. I think being able to relate and understand the pain or the needs of their own business is core to the RevOps team's success, right? I think we can build things all day long. We can automate everything. We're very rational people, but that doesn't always translate, to the teams you're supporting. So, people who are empathetic or who have, that background and can translate that in an interview, that speaks volumes to me, more so than like their, the tangible aspect of whether or not they can, build a dashboard or a report or whatever.
Yeah. I love it. I'm gonna see Vinny's question come through. I'm gonna come back to it, Vinny, because I love it. But Mallory, same thing. I'd love to hear how you, look at a candidate, how you interpret their skill set, very in line with what Kevin was saying.
Yeah, so I definitely agree on the empathy part. That is a very important aspect when you are, essentially providing a service to people who need your help. And, I joke about this with my team, but I actually don't love hiring. I don't love the process. And my strategy going forward is that I hope to just find the coolest people in each department and then draft them to come to RevOps so that I don't have to go look for them externally. But in all seriousness, I think you often will find someone like Kevin who started in sales but had the desire to figure out how it works or had ideas for how it could work better, and kind of shows that curiosity. I think the problem solving and the desire to understand like how to make something work better is so important. And it does go back to that problem solving and the solutions that you're talking about, Brad. It's solving puzzles all day long and finding something that's broken and like going until you fix it. So I think there's like a level of determination there and a level of curiosity. And then I would think the last thing for me is just the ability to be so detail oriented so that things aren't slipping past you. I think that stands out to me as well.
Absolutely. I think I'm not going to undervalue this, but I think I'm not going to call it table stakes or anything like that. But I think a common denominator for all things operations is you have to have this detail-oriented mind. Spoiler alert, we all love Salesforce. We all love the systems we operate in all day. But at the end of the day, there's not an ops person I know that's not really good at Excel or Google Sheets with understanding formulas and understanding trends. Because look, we're all doing the strategic side of how is our business growing, what trends are we doing. We're the data side of that, or the analyst side of that, which is really important. But I think I've been asked that before, and I fall in line with both empathy, and you very much have to have the passion and the grit to go get it done. One thing that I have noticed in a lot of the successful RevOps folks that I've met with, and some that are very much at the VP level, but also very much at the independent contributor level, one of the underlying skill sets is just this innate ability to zoom in all the way down, to the 1-inch mark and understand at a very tactical level what's going on, how do we rationalize this stuff, how do we build these things, and then immediately snap your finger, zoom back out to 10,000 feet and understand why is this business case, why are we talking about this tactical thing, and what does it solve in the greater business challenge that we're running into. That is a tough skill to hone in on, just this innate ability to zoom in and zoom out with another flip of the switch. But the folks that I've seen be able to do that are just total rock stars. This is a good one. So here's one of the questions, Vinny, thank you for asking this. It's like, as you're sifting through candidates after the interview process, how do you tell if they're actually just blowing smoke up your ass or actually capable of what they say they're doing? And this is tough. Like, there's so many, what's the difference between lip service and actually being able to deliver something? That's tough. Curious how y'all go through that. Y'all issue challenges to your folks. Mallory, I'll let you start, and Kevin, we'll bounce it back up to you. How do you evaluate that talent? Make sure they're legit.
Yeah, I went through this a bit when I was hiring our BI analysts because it's a skill set that I don't have. And if you're hiring for something that you intimately understand, I think it's a little bit easier to sniff out, BS. But for this particular role, it was going to be hard for me to do that. So I recruited a couple guys from our technical consulting group to interview David. And we basically had a little bit of a homework assignment. I said, bring your best SQL and talk to these guys about it. And he did a great job, went really well. And I think they even did some building of things in the interview. And so, asking people to just kind of show off their best work or walk you through an example of how they've very specifically tackled something in the past, I think is a helpful way to get the detail that you need.
Absolutely. Yeah. Live examples are always going to help. And I think we're all in that world that when we're in conversations or meetings just internally, we can all talk for about 5 or so minutes, but we're the type of mind that wants to see stuff get done. Let's jump into that report. Let's jump into that Excel spreadsheet. Let's figure out in the weeds how to do it. So seeing somebody tactically do it makes total sense. Kevin, anything you're seeing as far as how to evaluate the talent?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of in the same boat. I think kind of getting other members of the team, not just RevOps, but somebody from every department to get involved in the interview process to kind of attack from all angles, for lack of a better phrase, just to really kind of like pressure test, that what they're saying in the interview is legit. But we also do like take home assignments or like a presentation, depending on the role, to sort of really suss out that experience. And like for this RevOps role or this junior sales operations role I'm hiring for, giving them a data dump of Salesforce and just kind of putting the ask out there of like, draw some insights. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to find. I want you to find it for me, right? And really like just see where their mind goes. And I think that, like, again, it's kind of role dependent, but really put it back on them and make them prove themselves in the process.
I love it. It's one of those things too, and I love that approach because you give them something. Like, look, if I give you a raw data file and look, you've got rows and columns, make something fun out of it. It gives Mallory, back to your point of like how to be creative, how to show grit, how to just get out there and do something. It challenges them, and who knows, you might learn something along the way. Like, I would have never thought about doing a pivot table that way to actually show that graph, but now I learned something. And so I think that's where a lot of value of just letting people's sort of mind wander to a certain degree and let them show their creativity. Because I think there's an underlying common denominator here, that there is so much creativity, and we see it in WizOps every day where people are asking very creative questions or tough questions, and you see these creative solutions come through. It's extremely inspiring. So, Vinny, thank you for popping the question in. I know we got a few minutes left. We always toss around some rapid fire questions. Some have to do with operations and some absolutely don't. But as we head into the holiday season, the first thing I will ask is, we typically ask, what's your favorite TV show, or what are you watching on Netflix right now? Because we're all at home for the most part doing that. Favorite holiday TV show or movie or anything of your liking that you're watching right now with family and friends? Mallory, I know you got the kiddos, so I'm sure you probably got an easy answer, but what's on the TV right now?
Oh man, we're a little behind. We've got some catching up to do. But my favorites are Christmas Vacation, Elf, and Love Actually. Those are my top three.
Love it. Love it. Kevin, what you're watching right now?
Yeah, I'm also not watching a whole lot right now. I'm probably gonna get yelled at, but I'm actually not a fan of Elf. I think I'm one of the very few, but I think Love Actually is definitely at the top of the rewatchable Christmas movies or holiday movies.
I love it. I love it.
What about you, Brad? What's your answer?
Nobody ever asked me the question back. Put me on the spot, geez, Mallory. I'd be remiss if I didn't say Home Alone is just the OG. Like, it can be on any channel, and if I see it on as I'm winding through, I'm stopping and I'm watching it probably all the way through. Like, the whispers I hear right now is there's supposed to be a remake. I would absolutely love that, but who knows if Kevin McAllister is what he's up to right now. So, two more very quick questions. This is always my favorite, and mainly because I actually had it for lunch today. Leftover pizza. What is the way that you actually eat your leftover pizza? Kevin, fire away.
Out of the box, doesn't even have to be in the fridge. I will just go to town.
I love it. I absolutely love that. That takes me right back to the college. Mallory.
If I'm in between meetings, I will just grab it and eat it cold. But if it's like for dinner, I'll warm it up.
I like that. That's one of the things that my wife and I actually debate on all the time. She will eat it cold until she's blue in the face, and I'm like, I can't eat it cold. I have to heat it up some way or fashion. So I love that. And the final question: our big heads are delayed getting sent here, so pretend that I have the big head if you've seen the other episodes. But we always ask all of our participants, as you've gone through your RevOps journey, when you look back, if you could give yourself advice at the start of your RevOps journey, because we have so many folks that are participants on this panel in our community where we post the videos of this. If you could give a bit of advice to yourself, kind of retrospectively from the beginning of your RevOps career, how would you advise yourself or the community on what to focus on as they grow in their RevOps journey? Mallory, we'll let you start, and Kevin can bring us home.
That's so hard.
It's not easy.
No, there's just a bunch. I guess I would go to the relationship building. You know, really having strong relationships with all of the department leaders in your business. I think it's so important to help connect the dots on their behalf, right? Oftentimes RevOps is bringing people together where they don't know they have a gap. You need some political capital to make that happen. And so having strong relationships with leadership and, you know, managing up when you need to, I think is important so you can surface the right problems to the right people.
I love that. Relationships are everything. Kevin, bring us home. What advice?
This is something I actually think about a lot. And, you know, I think if I could go back, I would really just say, like, don't try and boil the ocean. You know, I think we need to treat our functions as like true project managers, right? And really break it down, and kind of like what you were saying earlier, being able to zoom in down to an inch and then zoom back out to 10,000 feet. That's a skill that's learned over years and years of practice and experience. And I think just being comfortable with that and not trying to jump into it right away, I think would have saved me a lot of headache and late nights for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you know, being diligent about it, having that trade zooming in. I tell people all the time, there is a profound way to say no. And the earlier you know how to say no, sometimes the better, because look, in operations, we all want to solve all the problems for everybody. The reality of that is if we even try, we won't get much of it done because there's a problem out there at every part of the business that we touch and we try to solve for. So, you know, learn gracefully how to say no. But that's fantastic, guys. I know we're about a minute or two over. I know some folks are dropping to get on to other calls and everything they have, but Mallory, Kevin, can't thank y'all enough for jumping on. This is so fun. You know, when we get to learn from industry experts like yourself, it's so good. So thank you both for coming on. As a quick reminder for everybody that's on right now, I know a couple people have already jumped, but definitely going to get some koozies out your way for jumping in and joining the WizOps Fun. And it's crazy to think it's December 17th, and this is our last episode of the year. But we'll be back strong in January with more episodes, and I'm excited about that. But again, Mallory, Kevin, can't thank y'all both enough for jumping in, and hope you both have a fantastic holiday. Thank y'all.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
You too.
All right,
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care. See ya.